One certain day, the cabin of the international flight from Moscow to Ouagadougou buzzed with the low hum of engines, hushed conversations, and the soft clinking of glassware. The business class was nearly full, with executives, NGO workers, and consultants en route to Burkina Faso. Seat 3A was occupied by Charles Dumont, a sharply dressed French executive in his mid-40s. Polished shoes, a tailored suit, a silver watch, and a look of detached boredom completed his profile. He was heading to inspect a mining project, just another tick on his corporate calendar. Then something unexpected happened. A man entered the cabin, wearing simple trousers, a loose jacket, sandals, and a calm expression. No entourage, no flashy accessories. Dust still clung to the edge of his clothes. He nodded politely and took a seat 3B, right beside Charles. That man was President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, but no one noticed. And that's exactly how Traoré liked it. No fanfare, no titles, just presence. Charles gave a perfunctory glance, nodded and returned to his tablet. But when Traoré folded his jacket neatly on his lap, Charles wrinkled his nose and looked again. Sandals, dusty clothes, no briefcase. He leaned toward the flight attendant. "Excuse me," he whispered. "Is there any chance I could change seats?" "We're full in business class," she replied, puzzled. Charles sighed. "Unbelievable. You pay this much and they seat you next to anyone." He didn't know that anyone was the president of the country he was flying into. As the plane cruised over the clouds, Charles grew restless. He glanced at the quiet man beside him with irritation. Then, as if to assert superiority, he began speaking loudly into his phone's notes app. "We need more control in Burkina Faso. Locals are unpredictable, tighter contracts. They don't understand structure." He spoke in French, assuming the man next to him wouldn't understand. Traoré remained silent, gazing out the window, his hands folded calmly. Then Charles smirked and said to the attendant, "Guess I'll have to survive next to the village chief." Still, the man beside him said nothing. Dinner arrived. Charles ordered champagne and launched into a louder conversation with a French engineer across the aisle. "The locals there are simple. Give them a clinic or a pump, and they'll hand over land. But the new leaders, like this one in Burkina Faso, have too much pride, no business sense." The engineer didn't respond. He was staring at Traoré, eyes wide with realization. Then came a whisper, "That's President Ibrahim Traoré." Charles blinked. "What?" The whisper came again, this time louder. "That's the president." Charles froze. He turned fully. To the man he'd mocked, insulted, and dismissed. President Traoré looked back at him, calm, composed, unreadable. I didn't know," Charles stammered. "Mr. President, You didn't ask," Traoré replied, voice low but firm. The entire cabin fell silent. A flight attendant gasped, nearly dropping her tray. "Mr. President, we had no idea." Traoré raised a hand gently. "No need to change now. You treated me like any other man. That's how I came." From that moment on, the mood shifted. As the plane began its descent into Ouagadougou, Charles sat stiff, pale, drenched in regret. His business-class comfort had turned into a courtroom of consequence. "Mr. President," he tried again, voice low, "maybe we can talk, clear the air." Traoré glanced at him. "You already spoke, loudly, to the wrong audience." When the plane touched down, a captain's announcement broke the quiet. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ouagadougou. We are honored to carry a very special guest today." Gasps echoed, whispers spread. On the runway, a full presidential motorcade waited. SUVs, flags, soldiers, salutes. The plane door opened. President Traoré stood, adjusted his jacket and turned to Charles one last time. "Next time you enter another man's country, sit with respect, not above it." Then he walked down the steps into sunlight and history. Cameras flashed. National TV captured every moment. But back in the cabin, Charles remained behind, hoping to escape unnoticed. It was already too late. a fellow passenger had quietly filmed. The scene. Within hours, the clip went viral. Headlines exploded. French exec tries to switch seats from village chief. It was the president. President Traoré responds to disrespect with silence. The world applauds. A lesson in power, pride, and presence at 30,000 feet. The fallout was immediate. Charles's company faced public backlash. Contracts were frozen. The Burkinabe government suspended all dealings pending review. Yet President Traoré never issued a statement. He didn't need to. In the streets of Ouagadougou, murals appeared. One depicted a man in sandals sitting beside a suited figure. Below, a bold caption read, "He asked to move seats. History moved him instead." In classrooms, students repeated a line that would soon be quoted across Africa. "My seat was beside a man. What he saw beside him is his own problem." And Charles Dumont. He became a symbol, not of racism, not just of arrogance, but of what happens when we forget that humility is the greatest mark of leadership. Back in his office weeks later, President Traoré opened a drawer and placed something inside. A creased boarding pass marked Seat 3B. Not a trophy, a reminder that dignity speaks loudest when it doesn't raise its voice without any form of fear in it.